Welcome to Extension Connection on Super Talk 1270. Thoughtful information and discussion with experts from both Burleigh and Morton County Extension Service offices. Extension Connection provides advice on family nutrition, issues in agriculture, lawn and garden, community leadership, homeowner concerns, and so much more. Live from the Super Talk 1270 studio, this is Extension Connection.
Good morning. Today we have the Burleigh County Extension staff visiting with you. It's just a lovely day out there, and I think it's just, hopefully Perfect. It's up and up from here on out. And that sun is shining, so make sure if you can get outside and take a walk or enjoy the weather. It's just a lovely day out. Today, my name is Ashley Stegman. I am the Ag and Natural Resource Agent, and I have in studio with me Tom Kelb, our state horticulturalist specialist.
Morning, Ashley.
Morning. And so we just finished up this morning within our NDSU extension. We do a horticulture, conference call.
That's right. We get the latest information across the state as far as what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And so we talked about many different things, everything from over in Grand Forks to even farther out west. And so there was a lot of talk about trees on our call today.
Yeah, there's concerns. Generally we get a lot of calls about trees because a tree is so valuable to a home landscape, and so it's definitely worth calling extension if you have a problem with your trees. And one of the most common problems we're seeing across the Midwest, not just North Dakota, is the anthracnose disease on our ash trees. And some people are reporting that their young ash leaves are already dropping, and this causes a lot of concern for people, and justifiably so. But this is a fungus disease, and it's affected by the cool and the wet weather that we've had recently. It's a very common fungus disease on ash trees, and there's so many ash trees in North Dakota, so it's not uncommon to have this. But as far as if you're seeing your ash tree shed some leaves, you don't really have to be that worried about it. Usually we're seeing only about 5 to 10% drop of the leaves, and the tree's under minimal stress for this. But it is a fungus disease, so if you're seeing that, let's try to get that disease out of the area. If you got a chance to get under the tree and do some raking, get rid of that disease inoculum, and then the tree will be fine. We'd have to have defoliation of the tree over several consecutive years to cause real stress on a tree. So usually we're under more stress than the tree is from this kind of situation.
Right.
And there's no need for fungicide sprays. For whenever you spray a fungicide, you have to get great coverage to act as a shield, a protection. And it's very difficult to get good coverage on a well-established tree, an ash tree in this case. So I'd say don't even bother trying. And again, because the tree's under minimal stress, just, rake up underneath the tree. And especially this fall, do a good job raking up underneath the tree, get all that disease out of there. Sometimes if you want to, you can, if you don't fertilize your lawn underneath the tree, you can sprinkle some fertilizer underneath the tree. And we just recommend just a typical lawn fertilization, pretty much the standard rate there. And that will do a good job of nourishing the tree. The tree takes the nutrients out of the landscape just like the turf does. They fight each other for those nutrients. And the tree roots 90% of the tree roots are in the top 18 inches, the feeding roots. And so they're there. Those tree roots are there, and they benefit from any lawn fertilization. That also throws in, Ashley, about this is Memorial Day weekend, or late May is a good time to fertilize the lawn. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing a lot of lawns put on some good growth now, some really good healthy growth now. And if you haven't fertilized yet this spring, a fertilization around this time of year can be really beneficial to satisfy the growing needs of the plant and have the plant strong before the dry summer starts. The most important time to fertilize is in fall. And we talk about mid-October is the best time to fertilize. And if you're a low-maintenance person, once a year is certainly enough. And you should do that, again, in mid-October. But if you're a higher maintenance type of gardener, The second best time of year to fertilize your lawn is right now, and now we're learning even your ash trees or other trees will benefit from that fertilization too.
Now that anthracnosis, can that affect other trees too, or is it just the aspens?
Yeah, anthracnose, the ash trees. Yeah. Anthracnose there's many different types of anthracnose, and so many different types of leafy trees will get a form of anthracnose disease, but the disease you see on an ash tree is specific to the ash tree. It won't spread to your aspens, for example, or your maples or your elm trees. They get different problems, but usually what you see on your ash tree will be specific for your ash tree, this particular fungus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what we talk about in these horticulture calls that we have. We have one once a week, and we get specialists and extension agents all across the state to just talk about some different things that we see in our area, and maybe get those suggestions and that research knowledge from our specialists to give our audience the suggestions, the control methods needed to help out with some of those landscape. I know it's hot out, but I'm back in Mandan and I live in Mandan. So after we get done here at the radio station, I probably need to go mow my lawn, actually.
Is that right?
I do,
okay.
But I do know it's bad to do it in the hot heat.
Oh.
So I think I'll wait for tonight.
Well, I think the most important thing for lawn, you make sure the turf is dry, and make sure you got a sharp blade. That really helps. A lot of people, a lot of lawnmower manufacturers recommend you get a new blade every year or get a sharpened blade every year, and so that can really help get a clean cut. And so do it when the turf is dry, and then cut tall. That's the thing. Cut tall. The taller the turf, the deeper its root system will naturally grow. And the taller the turf, the more the grass will shade the soil and keep it cool, which is the way your turf wants it. The taller the turf, the more likely it can shade out some weeds that emerge. The taller the turf, you can conserve moisture in the soil by shading the soil. So I'd say that one of the keys for turf and mowing is cut tall, and then I recommend let the clippings fall. Let the clippings fall. Don't collect the clippings, because from the standpoint of your turf, it wants those clippings. The clippings can recycle nutrients to the turf, and the clippings can mulch the soil, keeping it cool. And that's what it's all about for having a nice, thick, healthy turf.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. And with that, we are going to be taking a break, and we'll be right back with the Extension Connection.
Right now it's 70. We'll see some sunshine develop across the area today as we top off at around 80 for a high. Winds will meanwhile stay on the west southwest.
Sean Hannity, weekdays at 2, only on Super Talk 1270.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Extension Connection. Today we have the Burleigh County Extension staff visiting with you. We are live in the studio, so if you do have any questions, you can call in. The number is 663-1270. Again, we are live. I am Ashley Stegman, Ag and Natural Resource Agent, and we have Tom Kelb, our state horticulturalist specialist with us today. I am going to be visiting with you shortly about a multi-county animal workshop that I am putting on. The date is June 6th. That's a Saturday. It will be in the afternoon from 1 to 4. This will be at our 4-H building on the East Expressway. And this workshop is really for any youth that are interested in animals. And so we have two different types of animals. We have our small animals and then our large animals. And those small animals are poultry and rabbit. And then we will shortly discuss, our pets and how we have to care for them and the maintenance on them and what we should do. And then we also have our large animals. Our large animals are our production animals, beef, meat and dairy goats, horse is included, and sheep and swine. So this workshop is really for youth that want to get involved with animal projects. And those days we will be talking, a lot of information will be covered. We'll be talking about general care on all those species, different breed selection, why one breed is better or more useful than another, equipment ID, some of those equipment that is used on a daily basis, and then we'll get into kind of the 4-H handling and showing of livestock. So we'll talk about how you properly handle those animals, and then really build on our showmanship skills and techniques. We do have some door prizes that are donated or sponsored by Runnings, Tractor Supply, KT Animal Supply, and Animal Kingdom. And so those are going to be some great donations that will be drawn to youth that participate in this workshop. Now, this workshop, there is no cost. There is a pre-registration that is required, and I would really appreciate everyone to register online. There's a link on our website, the Burleigh County Extension website, or you can find it on Facebook, or just call our number at our office, and that's 701-221-6865, and we'll be able to help you get registered for this workshop. So kind of building on the workshop here, a lot of youth
How about, Ashley, for that, so like you have two different classes, one's for small animals and then a separate class for those production animals. Is that right?
Yep. So we'll start. The day starts at 1 and it goes until 4, and so we will break those individuals up into either your small animal, the
pet,
youth that want to really
cat.
Focus on the poultry, rabbit, pets, and then other youth that want to focus more on those production type animals. And so they will, the sessions will be running simultaneously, but youth that are interested in small animals will be in our 4-H building arena, and then youth that are interested in the production animals, the bigger animals, they will be down at the rodeo arena by our 4-H building. And so that's kind of how...
All kids are open, or is it only 4-H?
Nope, all kids are invited, and I really encourage, whether you're a 4-H'er or not, to come out and learn some information about animals and what you can do with animals and how to care for animals. I think that's something that all youth really benefit from, working with animals and being responsible for caring for something.
Right.
So it's a great workshop that you're going to be able to learn a lot of information at.
Okay.
All right, and so talking kind of on the same lines here, I'm going to be discussing for our individuals that maybe are in 4-H and are planning on exhibiting animals at their local achievement days or county fair, or maybe even at state fair. There's a few things when you're working with your animals that you want to think about. You want to make sure that you take care of them and you handle them the best way you know how. You want to select your animals early. You want to get them started and practice with them. The more practice you work with your animal, the easier they are to handle. Just think about our pets. The more work you do with your dog, the more tricks that it does, or maybe, in my case, when I was a kid, we had cats, and the more we worked with them, the less, messes they would make.
Okay.
So
sounds good.
more work with your animals.
Train that animal.
The better the animals will be for you.
Yep.
And so, talking kind of more about those production animals, you need to know some things when you're working with your animal. How much your animal weighs is important, just to kind of understand, how much feed you're going to have to feed it and how much it should be gaining every day. because, you want to make sure that you're offering them enough food, but you don't want to be giving them too much food, and they can get a little obese sometimes.
Yep, not good.
Just like humans, we sometimes overindulge a little too much, and so you just want to make sure that you're not creating that environment for your animal. Yep. So cattle, sheep, and goats, we refer to those animals as ruminant animals. And ruminant animals have 4 compartments in their stomachs. And this really helps them digest that cellulose fiber. And so otherwise known as hay or grass. And so ruminant animals really eat a lot of hay, grasses. So you just think about all those animals that we see out on the range out there in the pastures grazing, cattle, sheep, goats. Those are your ruminant animals. Then we have what we call a monogastric animal. You have an idea what that would be?
Mono means one stomach. It's my guess.
Yep, it's one stomach. That's correct. Just like humans. We have just one stomach. And actually, pigs are a monogastric. They only have one compartment in their stomach. And swine do not digest that cellulose. So that hay, that grass, they cannot digest it like our ruminant animals do. And so other things that are very important, whether it's your pets at home or your livestock, is water. Water is the most important nutrients that they need. So they need to be offered clean and fresh water at all times. Just as humans, we need to have water. Our plants need water. Yeah. It's very essential.
That's right.
Another substance or a nutrients that is needed for both our pets and our livestock is protein. That protein helps grow and develop muscle. Just as humans, we need protein also. Carbohydrates, sugars, that's for energy. Sometimes, we as humans might indulge in our carbohydrates a little more than we should, maybe even our sugars. I know I'm guilty of that. I had two servings of ice cream yesterday.
Wow.
Probably didn't need that.
Shame on you.
I know, but oh well.
Never.
I'll be busy
Never
today,
again.
I guess.
That's right, mowing the lawn.
Yep. So I got to get my
Gotta burn
energy.
it off.
I got to get my ice cream burnt off somehow.
There you go.
The other nutrients that's important are minerals and vitamins. They help run the system, just to keep us healthy. Just like humans, we need our vitamins, our daily dose of orange juice or whatever it is. You need to get those vitamins and minerals in there also. Again, talking about nutrients, whether it is your pets or your livestock, overfeeding. You just do not want to get in the routine of overfeeding your animals because it's bad and it just doesn't it fills them, but it also creates more problem and headache. So feeding is and can be complicated, but you can work it all out. A good feeding program can hide or can really hide some of those flaws an animal may have. I see so often when I'm out for walks, people walking their dogs, and their dogs might need it just as much as they need it. So we need to remember not to overfeed our animals. All right, with that, it looks like we are going to be taking a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about some gardening things, and I'll be talking about what's going on in the state crop related.
Right now it's 70.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
Welcome back to the Extension Connection. Today, we have the Burleigh County Extension staff. My name is Ashley Stagman, Ag and Natural Resource Agent, and Tom Kelb, our State Horticulturalist Specialist. We just kind of wrapped up talking about our pets and our animals and a workshop that's going to be held. Again, that day is June 6th, 2015. From 1 to 4 at the 4-H building on East Expressway, out by our office there. So I really encourage anyone, youth, to participate in this. Along with earlier, we talked about a horticulture call that we have within Extension weekly. We also have a crop conference call, and that's one call that I am sit on and just kind of giving an update for our crops throughout the state of North Dakota. It seems like there are some areas, a lot of our research farms, Minot, Langdon, Carrington, they're all needing a little more precipitation. They hadn't seen any within the last week, and that's not the case here, thankfully.
Yeah, we've been good.
Maybe we need to share a little bit. I don't know. No? I don't think we
everyone
should give
for
it up.
himself.
Yep, I think so. They've had better. They've had past years that have been fine, right?
They're usually good out east. We're the ones who had the problems.
Yeah, and so a few other things that have been happening within our crops is we've been seeing with last week the cool temperatures that we had. We had some frost damage, especially on our canola. And the canola is where we're seeing more of a concern. Our small grains, they're pretty tolerant. They can handle a cold snap, but that canola doesn't handle it as well. There's also been an increase flea beetle activity in the Minot and Langdon areas, and so those are a few things that we are seeing. Richard Zollinger is a weed specialist with NDSU Extension, and he says that with the frost that we have experienced from last week, kochia and lamb's quarter seems to be suffering pretty badly, and because of that frost that we had, it seems like a lot of the kochia and the lamb's quarter is dead. So thank goodness for that, I guess, frost.
Don't worry, they'll come back.
Yeah. It
will. There's more seeds of that in the ground.
But, it might delay it a little bit.
You're
so
right.
we might not have to be worrying so much. There has been some early fungal disease seen in our wheat. That tan spot is showing up. And so those are a few things that we need to just be aware of and keep looking for that. Canada also has reported a lot of frost damage on their canola. And so that the canola seed treatments are beginning to wear off. And so there are some wireworm damage that's being observed. Early sunflower, there could be some cutworms. Of course, I was just outside last evening, and those mosquitoes, they're kind of a pain already. They are. I'm always told I'm just too sweet, so that's why. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, you're right. They do have a certain affection towards certain things. They like certain types of fruit essences, like of shampoos, or some people, I won't say it's you, Ashley, but some people who drink a lot. Alcohol raises the blood up closer to the surface of the skin, so they're more attracted to people who drink, or people who wear dark-colored clothes. Yep. That's another way they're attracted to.
Yeah.
So got to be careful, I guess.
Yeah.
Man, already. I thought we were okay, man. There
we
were just enjoying the last couple
little
nights.
Mosquitoes out there. I think we're a little damp, and so they like that. That's the perfect mix for them. All right, so Hans Kendall, he is a agronomy specialist, and I believe he is stationed. He does a lot of research work out of Carrington Research Farm, and then he also, I believe, is in Fargo, part of his appointment. But he is saying that we need to remember that when talking about sunflowers, that stand establishment is very critical. And so we really need to just allow that to grow, and before we put any pre-emergence in or anything, really let that stand get established. There is, NDSU is conducting some sunflower disease surveys, and so there should be more information coming out in the fall on that. And intercropping may result in a 3-week spread of maturity. So if you're planning on putting anything extra in out there, you just want to know that you're going to have a 3-week spread for maturity. And then, of course, because we've had so much moisture, we might be seeing some root rot in our broadleaf crops. And so, that is caused because of the excess moisture, and especially in those soybeans without any type of fungicide seed treatment, you might see more root rot because of that.
Makes sense. Yep,
So,
I see it. Yep.
Talking
Also, hey, Ashley, a lot of this information is available to our growers. NDSU has a crop and pest report, right?
Yep.
And so that's available to anyone. So if any growers out there wants the latest information, it's updated weekly.
Yes.
It's on the internet. You can subscribe to it to get email access to it. And so that's the NDSU crop and pest report. And gardeners, we have our own report. We have the yard and garden report, the NDSU yard and garden report. And our first issues just came out yesterday afternoon, and we'll be putting it online later today and tomorrow. And this is a weekly report, so people can get the latest information about these types of issues, like the flea beetles or whatever bugs are coming into town, or some issues as far as diseases or getting our crop stands going. So we have this information. Go online, just Google it. You can find these things, and you can sign up for automatic email subscriptions so that we'll automatically, when we have a new edition, we can email it to you. So you always have that information right on your fingertips from NDSU.
Yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that. They come in very helpful, and it is nice just to kind of know what's going around, what's going on, whether it's gardening or with our crops throughout the state.
Right.
Because it really, what's happening here in the West really affects what's happening in the East.
Yep.
And so
we often share the same problems.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. All right. So just kind of putting a little information out there. I know last week we had almost a crazy little chaotic mess about our rhubarb.
Okay. That's
Whether
right.
or not it's safe to consume,
Yes.
if it's really poisonous or not.
Right. Okay, yeah, like in our area here, Bismarck, Mandan, for most of us, we hit about 25 degrees. That was a hard frost. But even just north up, a little bit of here, up in like Beulah, Hazen, it got even colder. Temperatures about 21 around there. So our rhubarb was actively growing, and it got frosted. And there's a concern about rhubarb, because we all know that rhubarb leaves do have toxins in them, the oxalic acids. And what happens is when a plant freezes, we go back to basics here. When water freezes, it expands. And so when water inside a plant freezes, the water expands, and it can rupture out of the cells. And when the water ruptures out of the cells, out of the rhubarb leaf, some of that water can move in, as well as the toxins, into the stalks of the rhubarb. So we're always concerned when we have a frost on our rhubarb of the possibility of a risk of some of those toxins moving into the stalks, and especially if we have a hard frost. So, just because a rhubarb gets frost doesn't mean that it's toxic. Just stop with that. That's not necessarily true. What you got to do is got to look at the plant itself, and by now certainly we will have seen the damage that occurred from the frost last week. If the plants are firm and the stalks are erect, then they're safe to eat. On the other hand, some severely damaged stalks will be soft or mushy or rubbery, and often you'll see damage on the leaves as well. In that case, we would advise you not to eat those stalks because they could contain high levels of those oxalic acids. And so in that case, we'd recommend that you just snap off the damaged stalks and allow the plant to regrow, and it will send out new growth later this spring and early summer, and you can harvest that. That'll be perfectly edible. So again, don't panic out there. If your rhubarb looks healthy, it looks fine, the stalks are firm, they're safe. And actually, in the big picture, really, rhubarb poisoning is so rare. It's so rare. The only time it really happened on a major basis was like in World War I, when the British there was no vegetables around, so the British people were informed they should eat rhubarb leaves as part of their nutrition, and some of them got the bad news that later that the rhubarb was highly toxic. So they say that for an average 145-pound person, you'd have to eat 11 pounds of rhubarb leaves. That's the toxic part, 11 pounds to have a toxic dose. So, or where 50% of you die. So, but nevertheless, that's death. We don't want to talk about that, but we don't even want you to get sick. So, much lower consumption levels can cause sickness. And, sickness for these types of allergies, it can be nausea, vomiting, difficulty breathing, burning sensations on the mouth and throat. We don't want any of that. So if you have any questions at all about whether or not your rhubarb's safe, if it shows any sign of damage, just snap off those stalks and just let it go. It's not that delicious. You can postpone the strawberry rhubarb pie till later, I think.
Well, and it's early enough that if you do clip off that rhubarb, it'll grow back. We have plenty of time to get a good harvest out of it yet.
Yeah, it's only May. Goodness sakes, our growing season just started. So let's not. So let's be on the safe side. But again, if it looks healthy, you're gonna be okay.
All right, with that, we are going to be taking our last break, and we will be right back with the Extension Connection.
Right now, it's 75.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to the Extension Connection. Today, we have the Burleigh County Extension staff visiting with you. My name is Ashley Stegman, the Ag and Natural Resource Agent, and Tom Kelb, our State Horticulturalist Specialist. So, Tom.
Yes, Ashley.
Just this past weekend, I did plant my garden.
What? Already?
I did.
Wow, you are ambitious.
I had to do something. I had a long weekend.
I thought we were going to mow your lawn.
No, I got to do that today.
Okay.
So, do you think, was it a good thing or not?
Yeah, I think it's okay.
I think I'm safe.
I think so. It'd be so rare to have a frost this time, especially a killing frost. We're talking about 28 degrees. So we were just checking the long-term weather report, and they thought maybe Friday morning it's going to hit 37. So unless you're really in a frost patch, I think you're going to be okay. And a lot of things what we're talking about now is soil temperature. That makes a difference now. And there is a website that North Dakotans can go to see their soil temperature, and it's our North Dakota Agriculture Weather Network, or the acronym is NDAWN, which is NDAWN. And you can look at the average soil temperatures for both soil and turf. And over the last few days, our soil temperatures are in the 60s. So that's good. Now we're over. That's an important mark when you hit 60 on a regular basis, because that means almost all of our vegetable seeds are at temperature where they will germinate. They just won't sit in the soil, but they can germinate. And so like we're talking about, the early season stuff, of course, like let's say broccoli or spinach and beets and carrots, they certainly can germinate under these temperatures. But also like beans will germinate when the temperatures are in the 60s. And of course, peas will. Even we're now at the point where some types of where pumpkin and squash and zucchini can germinate when the temps are in the 60s. So you can go ahead and plant now. I like to wait until the ground's really warm for my melons and squash. Like maybe I'll wait a week, like the first week of June usually. But we're at the point where the seeds will germinate. Maybe super sweet corn would be another one. I'd be maybe a little bit careful about planting this early, but generally we're going to be okay. So this is a good weekend. It looks like the weather's going to be decent, and so it's the end of May. It's like the traditional Memorial Day weekend when people plant, and so it's good. And we're not expecting any frost damage, so you can safely put in your tomatoes and peppers, or any type of transplants, any type of tender annual flowers you want to put in your petunias or marigolds, whatever. They should be able to survive the the winter is officially over, I think, so we're going to be okay. So go ahead and get the garden going. So that was good. You got your garden in.
Yeah, I do have to say I've heard a lot of people, they're active. They want to get their gardens in and everything. Well, when everyone's active trying to plant their gardens, our greenhouses then are very, very busy.
Yeah, definitely.
And so there's not a lot on hand right now. So we might have to wait a little while for some of those transplants to come back, to be shipped back in. I just heard somebody was in runnings this morning, and it didn't look like there was a lot available. So you might want to just wait another day. They might get more in.
That's right. Garden centers, we got a lot of outstanding garden centers in our area, and they continually ship new material in. And so, there may be a day or two. Maybe after a busy weekend, there might be a little bit short, but new stuff keeps coming in this time of year. So take advantage of our outstanding local greenhouses and garden centers, because they have the stuff that will work here in our area. And look for plant materials. It's nice to have this. I always like to get materials early in the year. Don't be getting your tomatoes around the 4th of July. They'll get all leggy at the greenhouse and be 3/4 dead by then. So look for plants that have a nice green, deep green color. Look for plants that are stalky, not thin and spindly. When you look for flowers, I look for flowering annuals that have flower buds, but not necessarily a big flower on it, because that big flower can take a lot of energy out of that plant. So actually, I look for plants that are just starting to open up a little bit as far as their blooms, or just have the flower buds there. Those are usually healthier plants in the long run. Avoid any brown spottings. I think it's so early in the year that you're not likely to see root rot in our transplants yet. So yeah, it's a good time to get out in the garden and get things going, man. I think so.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Should we talk about, I want to talk about, a lot of people are putting their tomatoes now, and a lot of people, there's different ways to trellis your tomatoes. You can make your own tomato cages using that concrete reinforced wire. And so it's really nice to have a sturdy cage. The best tomato growers will tell you that you need to have a sturdy cage, and some of the best are the ones you make yourself. And you just get the 5-foot high concrete reinforced wire, and you cut it off in 6.5-foot swaths, wrap it around, and then you just clip off the bottom ring so you have some pointy edges to stick the cage in. And caging will give you the best yields of marketable tomatoes compared to all other types of staking. But so that's a good way to go. You can put a single stake in if you want, put one stake per plant, but then you have to make sure you clip off all those side shoots. That will give you the earliest yield, is when you just do a single stake. And let me just share with you about the string weave system. That's a system that most people don't know about, but it's an easy way to support your tomato vines. And you stick a post in the ground down the row. You stick a post, and then you have 2 plants, and then you stick another post down the row. And what you do is we're going to make a wall of string on either side of that metal post or wooden post down the row. So you just secure the twine at one edge of the row, and then you just wrap the twine to the next post down the row, which is 2 plants down, and you encircle that post, and then you just go down again to the next post. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a row of string on either side of the tomato vines, starting at 8 inches high and going about every 8 to 10 inches up the plant. So it's what commercial growers do, the string weave system. You can go to Google and find out about the string weave system. It's a nice and easy way for people who are really serious about tomatoes and plant a lot of tomato vines. Just be careful about just letting the tomatoes sprawl on the ground, because for those situations we're more likely to have tomato rot and more disease problems with that. So yeah, this is a good time to get your tomatoes in. You can plant tomatoes in containers. Keep in mind that every container, you got to have a drainage hole. That's key for the health of the plant. And the bigger the container, the better. The bigger the container will allow for more root system to develop. You'll have more soil in there, so you can have more nutrients in the beginning. So the bigger the container, the better your plant's going to like it. So keep that in mind as far as your container goes.
So, Tom, last year, last year was my first year having a garden because I didn't have a yard for a garden previously.
Right.
So I have my garden last year, and we had, I believe it was 6 tomato plants.
That's
and, they did fairly well, but they kept growing and growing and growing. And I wasn't getting as much fruit. Like I wasn't getting the tomatoes. I just kept and so I ended up pruning it.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, a couple things there. One is if you have just lush vines and not many fruits, that can be an indication that you're over fertilizing. There's too much nitrogen going on there because that stimulates flowering, or that stimulates leaf growth. That could be one thing. Also, actually, the type of variety that you choose can be associated with this. There's what we call determinate and indeterminate types of tomato vines. Indeterminate types just keep growing forever. They'll keep growing till the frost kills them. And they have to be pruned. Otherwise, you get out of control. And a lot of our heirloom varieties are indeterminate. These are very high maintenance plants, and you got to prune them. And one of the ways, there's lots of ways to prune them, that's for sure, because there's lots of ways. Every gardener has their own tricks. But generally speaking, what we do when we prune a tomato vine, we prune it the vine so it has 2 major branches. And the first is the original vine that comes up, and then the second vine. You prune so that you have one other vine that grows in that trunk of your tomato. And usually a tomato plant will have a strong branch right below its first flower cluster. So that's what you want to do when you do your pruning. You want to look to see where that first flower cluster is, and you'll see below that is a very sturdy vine. So that that vine will be like our sucker. That's the sucker, which is a vine that develops between the trunk and the leaf itself. So allow that sucker to grow. But after that, we usually recommend that you don't allow any more suckers. And so that means every week, like after you're done mowing your lawn, you go over your tomatoes and you pinch off those suckers, which again are between the main vine and the leaf. And you pinch those suckers, and that will help keep your plant down to a manageable size. And then you got to support it with caging or trellising. And you can avoid all that if you're super low maintenance. Just get a determinate vine. A determinate. These stop growing after they bloom. The vines stop growing, and they're earlier. I really like them. And most commercial growers focus on determinate types, like Celebrity, for example. It's a determinate type, and a lot of the mountain varieties are. And Roma, the canning tomatoes, they're determinate. You don't have to do any pruning, and they're so low maintenance. And so, but whatever works for you. You can go indeterminate, but then you got to get that pruning done and staking, or you can just go determinate. And they'll say that on the label when you buy your tomato plants. It'll tell you the variety and the type of vine. So determinate is short and bushy and early. Indeterminate is long and requires more work.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Extension Connection. We will be back in 2 weeks.